Perceptions of reality. This is gonna go off the rails. I can tell already. It's super broad, and I have like a starting point as to why I'm talking about this, but I don't know where it's gonna end up because I can foresee the future a little bit and how it's gonna just end up. Who knows where? So it started because, or I guess the thought originated in my mind as to wanting to talk about this, because really recently, the other day, I mentioned that I was scared that someone's perception of reality was different than mine. And then I started thinking about that in a general context, and I was like, well, wait, isn't everybody's perception of reality different than mine? And obviously, I'm not like scared of everybody. Maybe scared is too extreme of a word to begin with, but I'm not like thinking about that all the time. Like, if I really, when I start to really focus on it, then it freaks me out. But not because of fear, but just because of like, wow, everybody, like, when I think of the fact that everybody also has like a brain and a mind and like their own thing going on, like if I'm walking down the street and I'm just like thinking about stuff and just existing, I'm like, wait, every single person that I see is doing the same thing, then for some reason that like freaks me out a bit when I focus on that. Like, everybody's doing this, everybody's thinking about whatever they're going to do later on or what just happened or their current task, and that, I don't know, that freaks me out in the same way that I guess like thinking about eternity, or infinity or like eternal life or whatever like that starts to get overwhelming and make me anxious because it's such a huge concept that like I could like understand it, but at the same time it's so large and big and vast and whatever else that I don't know how to process it, maybe, I guess is the way I would word it. So the same thing when I think of like, yeah, everyone's got a different perception of reality, and that goes from just like, I don't know, like big differences in perception of reality, I guess, or what might scare me. Again, that might be the wrong word, but like concern me. I don't know. It's just like when I start thinking like, okay, if you think of like uh, someone with psychopathy or something like that, or certain levels of that, or a certain spectrum of that, and being like, oh, they don't have the same. Like, I really don't think anyone is exactly on the same wavelength you are. Even you would talk for hours and agree on everything, and their perception of reality, if I'm going with that phrase, is different. But I mean, like, oh, if someone doesn't feel or process or understand empathy the same way that someone else does, then that's like, oh wow, we're like on different planes, and that's like to know that maybe about somebody, be like, okay, you don't get that thing, and that's the thing that prevents me from maybe acting in a certain way, but you just don't have that. That, I guess, is where that thought kind of started in a bit, like how people's different perceptions of reality, and like, oh, your perception of reality is way different than mine, and that freaks me out a bit, or that scares me, or whatever it was, or I was just fixated on it and being like, that's causing me stress or worry. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the right word is because none of them feel right. But yeah, like again, that was a more extreme, like, I guess, example that I could make. And then I just started thinking, like, wait a second, everybody is different. Everyone has, like, even if we think about colors and stuff, right? Like, the way that and not just people that are colorblind or diagnosed with a thing, whether it's like a color blindness or whether, like I said, psychopathy or something like that. It's not even just like, oh, you're so different that you're diagnosed, to have like a chemical imbalance or something. It's not even that. But it's like I said, people that you gel with and that you feel like you see eye to eye and everything, you're on the same wavelength, you're on the same plane, they too have a different perception of the reality. And like I said, that's reality with just like what they think and feel and how they process things and just like their brain chemistry, and whatever else is going on is going to be slightly different, and that affects things that are like our senses too, right? So I mean, obviously everyone has a different sense of smell, and everyone has a different level of like tactile like feel and like sense of touch, right? And all those things. And like we think of like eyesight, I guess, being like, oh, like I have like 20/20 vision, or I have this and I have that. And we think of that difference, but then maybe because the artist thing in me recognizes too that, like, yeah, especially because I talk about color and stuff so much sometimes, whether I'm like, painting something for a client, or someone's just talking about something I just did, or we're just looking at a piece in a gallery, being like, oh yeah, this is like this really nice purple, and it's like, that's not purple, that's blue. Like, there's some times where there's this like little shift where it's like, yeah, they wouldn't be diagnosed colorblind, but just like they're perceiving something different than I am. and it's I don't know. There's like tests online you can do and stuff to find out if you're colorblind or you're a certain bias towards a certain like hue or spectrum of color and stuff. Um, I don't know. It's weird to be like that. Like there's no true color then. Like what is true red? Like someone's defined that, and so we're going by that. But then our understanding of what that thing is going to be different than someone else's understanding of what that is. Like what a true like hue or color could be, things like that. And again, that reminded me just this whole thing about perceptions of reality and how that freaks me out a bit, or just thinking about it on this grand scale. Um, it's amazing, I guess, to just relate to people in certain ways when I think about that. Of how you can relate to someone, or you think you relate to somebody, and like it just blew up into this other thing of like knowledge and like knowing. Um, and actually, this just hit me now, but a friend posted something that I think they wrote down, or maybe it was someone else where they took a picture of something and they posted it last night or this morning. I don't remember when I saw it, but and I wish that I could remember exactly what it said. Um, but it was something akin to like everyone thinks that they know stuff, but all we can do is like think things. You know what? I'm gonna find out what it is right now because that sounds dumb. Um, but yeah, that ties into exactly what I'm talking about right now. So I just need to find it. Yeah, it was. I don't know things. I just think things, and I think that's the case with everyone. So yeah, I don't. I don't know things. I just think things, and I think that's the case with everyone. So I think we use. I mean, yeah, like that. Like I said, that's a whole other thing. It's all going off in different directions and tangents. But yeah, what can we know? Like I was just. It's all just bridging and like so fragmented. Because yesterday, this again is relating all inside my head, and I'm trying to verbalize it as quick as I can. So you see all these different pathways my mind is taking and branching off into. But I was writing a quote yesterday to leave in an art room that I was subbing in, and it was David Foster Wallace, and it was about. Well, I may as well read that to you as well, because I don't remember it word for word, but I do have it handy, so I'm going to read that. Um, there it is. So we're existentially alone on the planet. I can't know what you're thinking and feeling, and you can't know what I'm thinking and feeling, and the best works construct a bridge across that abyss of human loneliness. So I left that quote in there yesterday, and then all this stuff is just relating, like all connecting. But it was, yeah. So with those two things in mind, the thing that my friend wrote, and then the David Foster Wallace quote, and just thinking about perceptions of reality and what that is, I think it's amazing how we can connect with people, how we think that we're both talking about the same thing, and then in reality, whatever reality is, like there is no one reality, I guess, right? And that can branch off into a whole different thing about like um, um, simulation theory and stuff like that, about there being like a one reality, that all our minds have somehow like kind of constructed for us, or that's like a what is it, single hive? I don't remember what it's called right now. But yeah, the notion, I guess, that like it's amazing to feel a connection with other people, but even then, like we might be thinking that we're thinking of the exact same thing and feeling the exact same thing, and maybe we're not, or maybe it's not even a maybe. We're just not. We're not exactly thinking of or feeling the exact same thing at the same time. I mean, that's a possibility, right? There's no way for me to know, just like that those couple lines there, that it was like, that we just think things, we don't know anything, and everyone thinks that. Um, or that's what everyone does, I guess, is that we're thinking things, and there's nothing that we could possibly know. And then you could trace that back to like, what is it, Descartes? I think, therefore I am, and like that's the only thing you could possibly know. But you can't really know that either. What does it mean to be? What does it mean? What is the am? I think, therefore I am. I am what? I am human. I am alive. I am. We don't know any of that, which again branches off into this whole other thing. But yeah, just the acknowledgement, I guess, that like, whoa, we are not all maybe existing in the same reality. Everyone's perceptions of what that reality is different. It means something different. Like I feel like this is such a basic topic, but at the same time, it's like blowing my mind to like think of things in that way, and again, why it's like so, I guess, beautiful and amazing, that we can connect or feel connected to people and share a moment, share a feeling, an experience together, and feel that we both shared the exact same thing. Like that's a magical moment when I really think of it. Um, that both of us, with our different everything, different body chemistries, brain chemistries, personal experiences and histories and chemical makeups, all that stuff, that we could say makes us us, and how we perceive everything and how we've processed our experiences and what we think about them and how they inform our future actions, like that, all those billions of things that have happened to bring us to where we are, our nature and our nurture and everything else, that we can still come to a place where we feel connected to that other individual. Like I just haven't really thought of that before, and that's blowing my mind right now. But I guess to go back to that word beautiful and how those things are beautiful. Originally, like I said, I started thinking of perceptions of reality because I mentioned that I was like, I'm scared because like me and this one individual was like, I realized that our perception of reality is different. And immediately after I said that, I started thinking like, why is that? Like that can be scary, I guess, if you go to an extreme and be like, um, like Ted Bundy's perception of reality is different than mine, and like that maybe is why he was able to do some of the things he did, and why I'm not able to really do those things, or why I wouldn't let myself, or have the inclination or desire, because our perceptions of reality are maybe very, very different. But I think that obviously, like again, this all seems so basic when I strip it down, that's what's beautiful about life. That's what's beautiful about people and diversity, which is something I've always thought. Like, yeah, diversity is essential. It's needed, I guess. Like, to have any rich experiences in life, to learn, to grow, to like have different experiences to process, and um, that also kind of relates to, I guess, control too, which I think would be another topic for another time. But like, how much can I control my perception of reality? I can't. Like, how do I control my perception of reality? Or I shouldn't say that I can't. I think maybe you can. You can train yourself, obviously, to maybe process things differently. I mean, you could do some Pavlovian exercises. You can just start thinking of like, why do I, analyzing, right? Like self-analyzing, like, why do I think this way when I have this experience? Why do I think that way about this group of people? Let's deconstruct that, and maybe you can change your perception of reality, or the way you process the reality that you experience. Like, I think that's possible for sure. But yeah, I was thinking of like, obviously that the fact that we perceive reality differently is going to be a beautiful thing, and a thing I mean, that's just the way it is. So I guess, not in like a divine sense of like, that's what makes life beautiful and that's the way like we were made for this purpose and whatever. It's just, it's nothing to do with that, I guess. But again, this all sounds like really basic in a way, but like just this thing keeps growing and going out to here of all these thoughts and ideas and perceptions of reality. And I think that's something that I want to work with artistically more in the future, other than just talking about it. Like, this is, again, this conversation is getting me to just, like, I feel a little overwhelmed sometimes, like taking a deep breath and being like, whoa, like there's so much information rushing in, or ideas, or just like feelings of like, what does that mean? Questions, I guess, more than anything. It's questions that I'm having of like, what does that mean? And like, how do I think about that? And what does thinking about that even do? What is the purpose in thinking about these different perceptions of reality, or recognizing that? Um, yeah, I don't know where to go from here. I just had that little seed of this thing I wanted to talk to, and then I knew it was going to snowball in all these different directions, but like, that's something I just, yeah, it's just more of a recent thing. Like, I've thought before when I'm like, you know, especially when I'm in a very populated area. Like, I've had these feelings before, like when I was in Vancouver last summer, of just like being. Yeah, I think about it when I'm in like really, really heavily saturated um, saturated by people, like really population heavy areas. Um, when I'm alone and I'm not like engaging with someone else, I'm really thinking like, oh yeah, like I said, when I was in Vancouver and I was just like on the SkyTrain or just like walking to the mall or walking wherever, and it was just like, wow, there's so many people right now and they're all living their own little lives, and that would just like freak me out a bit, being like, yeah, everyone's doing that, and maybe it's because there's that whole thing of just like, yeah, there's billions of people, so I'm really insignificant, and how like everyone is maybe not everyone, but a lot of people are probably thinking these similar thoughts of like, what am I gonna do to like do this thing or progress or do that or be important, or like that whole thing of coming back to like this self importance and like wanting to be important. And again, if I bring it back to legacy in that way, I think maybe that's part of why it freaks me out and was like, wow, there's everyone is doing stuff, that I like, I don't, yeah, I don't know, the amount of people that exist also like freaks me out. But again, that the whole thing of like, yeah, everyone is going about their day and just like doing their own thing and like focusing on that for some reason is weird to me, and like makes me feel anxious, and I get overwhelmed when I start thinking about that. But it mostly happens in those like really saturated by people kind of areas and scenarios. And again, I guess it happens because I'm not being distracted. Like I think about it because, you know, if I was hanging out with my friend and we were engaging in each other, I'm distracted. I'm not thinking about everything and everyone and whatever else, which is a whole other topic of how I distract myself from, I guess. I now I feel like my use of the word reality has changed, or like I'm more picky with how I use that, which is kind of a good thing. Because I was gonna say when I distract myself from reality, but that's like what do I mean by that? Distracting myself from reality. I guess distracting myself from life, like distracting myself from what is presently happening all around me, or that doesn't even make sense because the present engagement is what is distracting me from everything else. So whatever I'm focusing on in the present would be life in that moment for me, or reality to me, because I'm not thinking about anything else. Even though the rest of the world is doing its thing and those things will affect me, whether it's the weather or that person or whatever, that's not how I'm perceiving my reality or my life at that moment because I'm not focused on it. So I don't know. Yeah, it's I feel like I'm tripping balls right now. On just these thoughts. And like I said, now I use the word reality differently, or I'm starting to think like, wait, what does that mean again? Why am I even using that word? What? It's almost a meaningless word now. That's how I feel. It's almost a meaningless word because I don't know how to define it on a plane where everyone should be understanding it to mean the same thing. Because it doesn't mean the same thing to me that it means to someone else. It is not like a definition that I can nail down and describe to somebody like almost at all. Like, how do you define reality? I just started using life and reality interchangeably there for a second, but that's the things like, how do you define, like, I mean, they're not the same thing, but like they're, I don't know. That's a, yeah, that's a good one. That's a gooder. um, I would love to hear your thoughts on any of the crap that I just said and just like spewed out of my face hole. Um, if you've got comments or questions, or you want to push this further, or give me some links to just like further this whole thing, like I realize now that like this is a topic or an area of fascination that I didn't really have before. Which is again why I love having this whole thing of this conversation going on, because there was the seed of this thought, but I didn't explore it, and I always find like I learn a lot by conversation, and sometimes that's because someone is giving me knowledge back, or just the fact that I'm expressing it verbally. Sometimes writing that will help too, because it's just like stream of conscious. Writing is just a little slower than talking, so when I'm talking about it, I'm like, whoa, like my mind's going from here to here to here to here to here, and craziness is happening, and now I just brought up a whole bunch of new topics in my mind I didn't even relate to before, or didn't relate them together before, and now I'm thinking about it, and like that's blowing my mind. So this is why this is important for me to do, just for myself even. I was saying that along with the fact that this is a great exercise for me to think about things just by getting out, that I would also just want to create conversation and engage and gather new ideas, and like through you and commenting and asking questions back or providing information or thoughts and ideas and stuff. So you should do that. But that's, yeah, I can't go anywhere else with that right now because I just freaked myself out and overwhelmed me. So I will see you on another time.